Is that 5 or 6 for the month?
Don't know.
Who knows?
I think it's more.
Did
Oh, here we are. What's up, guys? We're
Hey.
late. Tech issues, as usual. Not as bad as Carl last night, though. I did like that meme that he posted about him dragging his entire computer to trash and it evaporates. And, that
Carl's an old North Alabama boy. He'll throw a computer away in a second.
Well, I've been known to do that myself. I think.
Yeah.
Was it yesterday that they found my computer in the trash? That was Friday.
Friday.
That was Friday.
Along with the door.
Well, that's a whole different story. So appreciate you guys being with us. We're going to be talking about what to do if you're in the struggle. This is sponsored today by Nukes Eatery.
Nukes. We will post invoice you for the
Yeah, we'll just we'll take some of the money now and some of the money later.
That's right.
So we'll
some of the pizza now and some of the pizza later.
I actually don't like their food. I'd rather have the money, but I do like their cups, which Hope and I were talking about. We got a new team member, Hope. Come on camera.
Come over here and say hello.
Say hello.
Well,
you're not even in the camera. There we go.
There
you
go.
So Hope's joining with us from the education world. So
right.
she's going to feel right at home because she's used to teaching first graders, and that's exactly how we act.
There you go. So you might have to reach up to 3rd grade with
fractions. I can do fractions, so we're good. All right, guys, we've got a few minutes and a lot to cover, so we're going to go ahead and hit it. Couple of things. Deal of the day. We're going to go with Tyler Kimbrell. So I don't know if you've heard about this when he posted it.
Have not
posted it in the group, but he has a house in North Alabama where
Roll Tide, Mama Jean.
There's 2 houses. One's in pre-foreclosure, and the second one is cross-collateralized. So basically, he's getting a 2-for-1 deal.
Oh my!
Yeah. So I think it's somewhere around. He's paying $240. It's worth in the low 400s.
Both together.
Yep.
Whole deal. Yeah.
Yeah. So
okay.
Really, really nice.
The house is in decent shape.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. Pretty. I mean, everything needs something, but in pretty good shape. Certainly workable. So really, really good stuff, and just we could go deeper into it, but for the sake of time, we're not. I'm doing a perfect presentation today for our private community at 10 a.m. So our normal support call. If you guys don't know, we beefed up the support call schedule. We have 3 open support calls per day that are live. And so roughly 23 hours of live training per week. So we're really excited about that. That's more than a college curriculum.
Boy, it is.
Yeah,
way more than what I went to.
You were on that 8-hour a week?
I was on that hoop week.
I don't know what that means. But
I showed them first 5 minutes for most of my classes.
Gotcha. Took roll and skedaddle. Got it. Nice strategy. So
and look what you got from it.
Yeah. Well, hey, it all works. We don't have to be scholars to buy some real estate.
Intelligence on demand.
And we sure as hell don't have to understand technology. We finally got these cameras on. We had to turn them on, and that was problematic. So don't have to be great at technology to buy some houses. All right. So today I want to talk about what to do if you're in the struggle.
Yeah.
And the first thing I want to submit to you is it's normal to go through the struggle. So in our curriculum, we talk about this. We talk about the hierarchy of the flipping business, that everybody starts as a startup. That's when the energy is high. You're very optimistic. But then at some point, you have to start doing something.
Mm-hmm.
And then for most people, whoa, hello, somebody.
Coming at you, Brad. Coming at you right now, folks. Back away from your TV.
Coming at you live. At some point, you begin implementation, and that's when struggle begins. Because you see, well, maybe things aren't as easy as I thought they were. You begin to find out what you don't know. And so that's where the struggle begins.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Everybody has to go through the struggle.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of people find, or at least think, that they should just skip and go straight to success.
Right.
That's not possible with anything that's worth doing.
Mm-mm.
It's like if you're going to, I mean, is there anything that I can think of where that's worth doing that you're good at to begin with?
Well, unless you just keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, but that comes over time.
That's right. And you don't grow.
Yeah, correct. Okay, fair. So if you're 12 years old and you're still playing t-ball.
That's exactly right.
Then yeah.
And if you're 37, you're still playing t-ball, then you got an issue.
Well, yeah, then the police
you look like a weirdo out there playing ball with 8-year-olds.
Yep, that's correct. So
arrested.
I can't do anything with this guy.
Shot in some neighborhoods.
So anyway, so just I think that there's some comfort in knowing that it's normal. It's normal. Okay. Now, your struggles should certainly not be years, but for most people it is. I see that in the investing side, most people remain in struggle long term.
Long term.
Because they never can figure out the problems of business. Okay. And so what we're going to be talking about today is the first problem of business, which is the marketing problem. I'm a firm believer that there's two problems in business. There's marketing and then there's fulfillment. Whatever business you have, if you're a chiropractor and you don't have enough clients, you got a marketing problem. If you have too many clients, you got a fulfillment problem.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole host of problems that come from that.
That's right.
Which is staffing, how do we hire, how do we fire, how do we create culture as a company, whole host of issues with that. But it starts off as a marketing problem. Okay. For most investors, the problem that they realize first is I have a marketing problem. I don't know how to find deals is how they kind of come up with that.
Yep. You know, I interview quite a few of the new folks that come in before they get in.
Yeah.
And that is probably the number one thing is they either don't know how, they'll say they don't know how to find motivated leads, or they don't know that there are even leads out there that are motivated because they've been doing outbound for so long.
Yeah.
They're just looking for better outbound leads.
100%. So what we teach is search. We want people that are actively searching for us to find us. Okay. Not everybody can start in search because it is more quote unquote expensive when it comes to money. So doing the sweat marketing is going to be a good starting point. You know, Steph was this close yesterday to buying a house on the lake off of, on Center Hill, off of Facebook for $150K.
Really?
1,800 foot.
On Facebook.
Yeah. Sweat marketing. She's just jacking around, spending her time.
That's right.
You know, and I was like, yeah, buy it. And she reached out. He like 2 minutes ago sold.
Yeah, time is the most inexpensive type of marketing you can do. You know, I do the same thing with Craigslist.
Yeah.
30 minutes, 2 nights a week. That's 1 hour a week, 52 hours in a year is all there is. And I'll get one deal a year and average about 75 to 80K profit on that deal. And I've spent 52 hours. Now you have to, it's 104 calls, but not calls, but 104 times you sit down for 30 minutes and look on Craigslist. So you got to be okay with 103 times you're going to get up and walk off and you're not going to find anything. But if you can be okay with that 103 times you get up and walk away with nothing, because one of those times you got up and walked away with 80K, you can be fine. I don't know what you can spend 52 hours doing.
Yeah.
And make 80K.
Yeah, 100%. So what was the last deal that you bought that way?
I'm going to say,
or just through any sweat marketing?
Well, Hornbeak, bought from another investor on sweat marketing. My house at Collinwood, same way, sweat marketing. It was a fix and flip, 75,000.
Okay, on Hornbeak or Collinwood?
On Collinwood.
What about Hornbeak?
Hornbeak was another investor and found it with another investor.
Okay, and what was the equity spread there roughly?
It's going to be I captured 96, 97 in the note. Yeah. And a little small down payment. Yeah. And $1,000 a month cash flow.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All from sweat. Okay. Yeah. So don't think just because you're not at search yet that you can't make it work. I started in sweat marketing, went to search over time, or went to paid marketing, but search is what we recommend. So let's talk about, let's say that you're doing search and you're struggling. Okay. We just had a post this morning, which is kind of ironic. Guy with us from Indianapolis. It's like, hey, kind of struggling right now. I was like, okay, what's the metrics? So these are the metrics that we need to identify where the problem lies. So the first one is impressions. Okay, so impressions mean the amount of searches that you're showing up for. If you're not getting impressions, you're certainly not spending money, but it means that Google or Bing or whatever search tool that you're using has not yet identified you as an advertiser on that space. Okay, so first is impressions. Okay, second is click-through rate. So click-through rate is how many people are clicking to your site, and we want to identify what the percentage of people that are impressions are going to your site. Okay. Number 3 is cost per click. Too high is bad. Too low is even worse, because the search parameters are sold on an auction format. So if we're bidding for keywords, then the most relevant keywords to us, the most valuable keywords to us, are going to be the most expensive. So I'd much rather have expensive traffic than cheap traffic. You know, a lot of people try to get their cost per lead low. That's the wrong question. The right question is, how do I get a really good cost per contract, which is post the lead. Okay. So we went through impressions, we went through click-through rate. Cost per lead is going to be important. I'm sorry, let me back up. Before cost per lead is conversion rate. Okay. So impressions, click-through rate, cost per click, conversion rate on the page. And this is where we identified the problem was with this person. Because so far this month, I'm at 22%, and I think he was at 3.
Okay, conversion rate.
Okay, so in other words, if I'm running traffic against him, and he's at a 3% conversion rate, I'm at 22, then that means that all things remaining the same, I'm going to get 7 times the amount of leads for the same money, or my cost per lead is going to be 1/7 the price. Okay, it's tough to compete at that point. Okay, so obviously he has a conversion problem on the page. So we're going to split test, we'll fix that. Then it comes down to once cost per lead, how many leads per contract and cost per contract. Okay, this is assuming that there's an ads problem. One thing I want to submit to everybody, it's the easiest thing to blame the ads. You know, so it's like, well, if I had people that were throwing keys at me through the phone, then I could catch them, right? But it's really tough to mess up a motivated seller, a really motivated seller. It's impossible to make a non-motivated seller motivated. Being great post the lead is about capturing the people in the middle, okay, that are pretty motivated and maximizing on that motivation. So really it comes down to, are you good at triage call? Are you good at perfect presentation? Yeah, there we go. Do you know the closes verbatim? Can you identify ARV? And can you roughly estimate rehab costs? And I tell you, it's a lot easier to blame the ads than it is to go and look in the mirror. Because one, you have control over.
That's true.
You know, which means, okay, there's some work we have to do. And the thing that I've seen across time, Jim Stanford was a good example of this. So Jim, in January of last year, we had a mastermind in Fort Myers.
Right.
And me and him spent some time together, and he was a little bit frustrated, and he was, you know, I'm really not getting traction. It's like, okay. And I told him, I said, send me every lead that you have and send me the triage call with it. We started doing call reviews with him. And what we found was that he was underestimating ARV and overestimating repair cost. Well, if you go 10% lower on ARV and 10 or 20% high on construction.
And it works there.
Yeah. Well, but that's going to take you from a deal that you should have bought to one that you don't. Right? I think the next month he bought 3. And he's done exceptionally well. I don't remember the numbers. He shared the numbers with me a couple months ago. But he's certainly surpassed what he was hoping to do in 2022. Same leads, different process. We got to be good at the process. Okay. So how do we identify if it's a lead quality problem or if it's post lead? One of the easiest ways to do this is to get a search term report. And you can get this from your ads manager, whoever you have. And it's going to show what people are searching when they click your site. So if we're seeing a lot of stuff like, what's my home worth? That's garbage. We don't want to see that. If someone's typing Zillow and finding you, you don't want that either. This is what people that are not very good at creating traffic are doing. Okay. But if it's sell my house fast, companies that buy houses, we actually had one that was sell my house before I burn it down, which I've talked about. You know, that's who we're looking for.
What about how to stop a foreclosure?
Yeah, that's okay too. But I will say it's not as good as you would think. Wow. Because a lot of times how to stop foreclosure doesn't mean that they're ready to sell. Okay. It doesn't mean that we don't want that traffic, but I wouldn't be willing to pay as much for that as I would sell my house fast.
Sell my house fast.
You know, companies that buy houses are actively searching for you. See what I'm saying? So we've got 7 more minutes maximum. I think it really comes down to, if you're struggling, understanding, one, that it's normal. Okay. Number 2, identify where the struggle is. Today we're talking about marketing. Next week we'll talk about fulfillment, which is a whole other issue. Once you've identified what the struggle is, then we have to really identify what we can do to change it. And anything's fixable. You know, so there's a big difference in asking. Backing up. There's a big difference in thinking you're at the end of your journey than you're at the beginning. The context can be the exact same, but just by asking that question is going to change the dynamic of the vision. Because if you're thinking about it, it's like, I'm 36. I'm going to be in this business another 40, 50 years. Like, I'm not going to stop. It's like I'm addicted. You know, like, we're not going to stop doing what we're doing. Whatever problems we have across however much time, it's like anything's fixable. So identifying the vision, going back to the vision, being around a peer group that can lift you up is going to be really important as well. But I think there's a sub part of this where we have to identify the things that we can control and get better. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I mean, I know that's not a very...
Well,
I'm not Joel Osteen up in here, like, you know.
Yeah, but here's the difference. I mean,
looking kind of pasty today.
Yeah,
it's a winter.
Are you talking to me right now?
I'm talking to me. Okay. I'm telling you, I'm looking kind of.
I mean,
pale.
You know, that would hurt my feelings if I knew you called me pasty in front of a whole lot of people.
No, sir, I wouldn't do that.
Well, look, Joel, you're not Joel Osteen. But here's
I like Joel Osteen.
Yeah. It's not a problem.
A lot better than I do.
Everybody, you know, he's like a good bourbon, and you're a little happier after you experience it. So, but I will say this: I'd rather have a doc tell me, if I go in because my head is pounding, and he says, "Well, yeah, but your feet look good."
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But that's not why I'm here. And so, what I appreciate is, you don't just have several points and they're all just glossy themes. They're not themes. They are specifics. They're details. Here's what the issue is. You know, I've been hanging out with you for a couple of years myself, and I've never heard those 6 things in a row. Never heard you say those 6 things in a row that have to do with marketing like that. So I mean, that's gold right there. Now, not everybody's ready to understand or every bit of that. But if you don't see the vision of it out there, you're not going to start walking towards it.
That's true.
So in that sense, you are a little bit of Joel Osteen, and I'd like for you to maybe wear a nice suit next week or something.
Oh, I did dress up as Santa Claus one time, so I guess I could do something.
I'd like for you to look in the camera and say, "Now, friend," like that. Think you can do that?
But not with as big of a smile. That's the happiest guy I've ever seen.
He is extremely happy. For me, I'm a TD Jakes fan. I mean, Jakes is going to punch you right in the throat and tell you why you're dying. I mean, you know, I like that.
I'll
like
have to check him
Jake
out.
say, "Get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready." It's good stuff.
I'll have to. I don't know what you're talking about, so I'll have to check that out.
Be careful.
All right, cool. All right, guys, we'll see you next week. We'll continue with the struggle, how to deal with the fulfillment struggle. See you next week.
All right.